Okay, so before we start with part 2, so the first one is like humans, right? So far, my favorite factions, it's still unchanged. I still think the machine guys, the Adeptus Mechanicus, are I think I still identify. I still like them the most out of the humans so far. Probably I would rank second was probably either the Inquisitors because there's so much going on with them, or the Custodes because they have the pole arm gun thingies, and those are cool. So yeah, if I would rank them in based on what I find works for me, Adeptus and then Inquisitor or Custodes is a tie. Probably the what was that one? The OP ones, the older Marines. What was that? Grey Knights, Grey Knights. There we go. And then the fifth one would probably be the Sisters of Battle. Yeah, that's in order of what I find, what I think I would vibe the most with. All right, next. So next one, we're gonna be going with Faction Explained Part 2. So we're gonna explore the Chaos side of things, I guess. So the ones that aren't human, there we go. The ones that aren't human. And we're gonna be starting in 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, let's go.
On the Warhammer races. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, we do the Imperium of Man. You check that out in the description.
We did
I
that.
highly recommend you watch that to get context.
Oh, this is gonna be released in a VOD later on.
Go ahead and keep on watching. So after an entire episode of nothing but humans, we can now talk about chaos, which involves humans again.
It's still humans. But I like when he said it involves humans, but would you even count some of the factions earlier as human? They're barely human at that point.
Again, but a little bit less. We also got demons and shit.
Demons. There we go.
My ass.
What?
Like hard, Nick.
So, as I've mentioned many times before, we've discussed the warp, the immaterium, the hellish landscape, the purgatory dimension realm between the material realm of our existence. Now, in the warp, it's terrifying, horrible, there are demons everywhere, things are crazy, all your minds and thoughts and emotions get projected there. It is both formless and empty. It is vast and tiny. It obeys the laws of time and physics while simultaneously does absolutely nothing of the sort. It is a hodgepodge and a culmination of just unknowable eldritch.
It's the void.
And there are 4 gods that permeate.
Okay, just from this screen, let's see. I'm just gonna guess. I think I'm gonna like the blue ones the most, mostly because my favorite color is blue. But it has the most okay-ish looking armor.
Chaos and the warp. These are the 4 major chaos gods. And if we wish to learn about chaos, we need to learn about each and every single.
Okay, they have their own thrones and shit, I guess.
One of these chaos gods. First up, we have Khorne.
Khorne.
He is the
I've heard about Khorne.
Your classic Satan. He is all about anger, murder, fighting, blood, guts, death. You ever heard the term blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne?
So yeah, whenever I'm watching a content creator going live, you'll know there's a Warhammer 40k guy. And they usually reveal themselves by doing this. Either this or some other quote, like for the Emperor or something like that. So it's either that or this one. Like, oh, this guy is into 40k.
That's Khorne. The whole idea is that he is all about the fury and strength of battle. He doesn't care where blood comes from, so long as blood is flowing. He wants to fight and murder and carnage and slaughter and death, 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 death. That is Khorne. very simple to understand. Next up, you have Zeech, and Zeech is the god of change. However, the god of change, it's permeates in so many different other ways. He's the most eldritch of all the demon gods.
So, this one, I've heard about him, actually, kind of recently, kasi Wolks was playing, what was that? It's a Warhammer. It's still a Warhammer game, but the strategy one. I was watching Captain Espresso that just yesterday. Yeah, but he was using this faction, and it's a Zinch. Yeah, Zinch to Zinch. Basta yan. So he was using this faction, and I like their whole motif. It's like bird people or something.
He has this weird way to always be plucking at the strings of the universe. He's always conniving and scheming, doing his best to cause as much bullshit as he can. Zeech is unknowable. Everything that makes sense, he will and won't do. Every future and setting and every type of destiny or
he's like the Magic the Gathering player.
Told and also changeable. It is set in stone while also completely random. He knows what everything is going to happen and also that none of it's going to happen. You would ask Zeech a question. That question leads to 3 more questions. And those questions lead to the heat death of the universe, which asks 4 answers to those questions. And then he thinks to himself, what are questions even really? And are you even asking the questions? Or are you simply giving paths to answers and other horseshit? Zeech is just, I'm gonna fuck with stuff. He is yes and he is no. He is the understanding and he is complexity. He is unknowable. And that's what the God of Change is about. Very bizarre. And he likes birds a lot. I don't know
The bird
Next
people.
Next up, we got Papa Nurgle.
Oh, this one I know a lot because we play Darktide. So this is like the main chaos god that I'm familiar with.
Nurgle, he loves you for
Papa
who you
Nurgle.
are. Probably not. He will murder you just the same. Papa Nurgle is about rot, pestilence, death, and decay.
Yeah.
He is the end of everything. Him and Zeech do not like each other very much because where Zeech represents change and adjustment, Nurgle represents stagnation and death. He is all about miasma and pestilence. And
sorry for those who are eating right now.
bloat and pus and organs and people just being sedentary.
Papa Nurgle.
He is the idea that everything will rot and decay.
Wait, Vermintide has the Warhammer equivalent of Nurgle, right? Because Darktide is Nurgle, and then Vermintide is also Nurgle. But based on my understanding, it's a different Nurgle because it's a different universe, right?
And die. Nothing is certain besides decay and death. All of us will end up the same way, and broken down through just sheer
oh my god, oh god, that's so disgusting.
So the joke that Nurgle always loves you is generally because of that, because we all end up the same. We all rot, and we all
guys, look, Discord moderators
die and wither. That's Nurgle, and he's got a general theme of course.
Oh my god, look. Warhammer players.
And different kinds of diseases and sickness and things of that nature. That's generally Nurgle. He's pretty easy to understand as well, and he chonk. Finally, we have the youngest of the Chaos.
Thanks for the bars. Why does he also have a bar?
Gods, and that is Slanesh, also known as the Prince of Pleasure or the God of Unspeakable Excess. Slanesh is generally referred to with sex, but it's not only sex.
I can see.
That's a good avenue if you want to make stuff. Slanesh is just the idea of the senses of the body being cranked to not just 11, but more like 17. See, we'll discuss Slanesh a little bit more when we talk about the Eldar, because they done fucked up. But
what?
He
Nurgle sometimes being depicted with a big ass cauldron because he's cooking up new diseases. Oh.
And therefore, sex is generally a large part of it.
Look at this guy's face. My face when I get featured is Bulgam.
However, it's mostly pain and torture lots of pain, torture, but sometimes sexually related or drug related. Lots of drugs. Lots of drugs. Slaanesh gets off on everything. Extremes in happiness, extremes in sadness, extremes in pain.
Slaanesh exists because the others can't.
Masochism.
Stop.
And of course that goes along with the sex part of it as well. It's generally referred to with sex because of the color scheme. Very purple, lots of exposed genitalia. A lot of their models have like exposed and stuff. And that is generally the theme you go for from a physical side, but it really embodies everything. Mainly
You look like dark elves, actually. Yeah, space dark elves with
when it comes down to it, you'll find a lot of them have
demon dark elves, I guess.
Or whips, or any kind of BDSM style gear, because it is
space BDSM alien dark elf demons. That's a lot.
unspeakable excess, the prince of pleasure, everything in excess to the point where it is just sheer frightening. That is Slaanesh in a nutshell. A little bit bizarre and a little hard to describe sometimes, but as we talk more about the Dark Eldar later in this video, you'll understand it far, far better and far more than you'd want to. Now you might be thinking, why would anyone ever want to join Chaos?
Yeah.
They all look horrifying, screwed up, and just frightening things.
So this one, the top left is like points in strength. These are strength builds. The blue ones are int builds, I guess. This one is like charisma build, and the green ones are, I don't know, what's left? Not endurance, because they're always sick or something, right? So yeah, you have strength, vite, and then this one, I guess, charisma or dex, and then the other one is just, I guess, vitality, but negative.
Right? Well, the thing is that, of course, one, your mind is put into the warp and the materia, so you can be easily swayed by chaos.
I get mind controlled.
Your head, especially if you're a psyker. Sometimes regiments of the less mentally strong people, whether they be civilians or, say, low-level guardsmen or conscripts, can be easily swayed.
Yeah, that's what happened in Darktide, right? With the Nurgle.
And they serve their dark gods and whatever god they personally prefer. However, and this might seem strange, chaos in their own right isn't necessarily evil. See, the warp is every manifestation of emotion and being, every soul, everything of existence. This includes all the good things. All the different chaos gods have another side to their coin. Khorne might be death, murder, slaughter, slaughter, but he's also got this weird sense of survival of the fittest, trial by combat, and honor. Khorne will never lie to you.
For honor guy.
Khorne will never stab you in the back. Khorne isn't about conniving and scheming. Khorne is about straight up mano e mano, you versus me, get in the ring, we're gonna murder each other hard right now. It may not be a good thing,
I'm fine with that.
but it is that other side of the coin. Him and Tzeentch generally don't get along because Tzeentch is that conniving schemer, but he's also about the idea of hope. Where there is change for your predicament. There is change for your problem. The hope of the galaxy, the ability to bend the world to your will, the idea that your fate is not set in stone, but in reality that you control your own destiny and can control it whenever you want, the changer of ways.
He's an optimist guy.
And of course, Tzeentch and Nurgle hate each other because while Nurgle does represent stagnation, death, and decay, he also represents finality. An ending. The fact that you can be mentally at peace knowing that you will end and how you will end. Fear of the unknown, fear of change is not present with Nurgle. With Nurgle, everything will rot and die, and that provides that finality, that ability that this is over. We are all the same, and we will all end the same.
Okay.
We know the meaning of life.
I kind of understand that.
Is to live and die and rot. And with that, it brings peace of mind. Slaanesh is a lot more simple. While they are the excess of emotion, they are also the representation of emotion. Slaanesh embodies happiness. Slaanesh embodies excitement and joy and pleasure, not only in the sense of the physical, you know, style of pleasure, but also everything else like food and drink and air on your cheek and sunlight, the feeling,
the little things.
Feeling. All of that is also represented with Slaanesh. So you have to ask, why are they always represented as super evil skulls and spikes on everything and want to murder everybody? I don't really got an answer for you on that one. My assumption is that because mentally humans may think worse thoughts.
I
Even if we
guess.
don't act on them, and therefore they're projected in the warp more. That one's a little bit weird. I don't know. This is me spitballing right now, but I don't know. You need a super bad guy. You already got the Imperium of Man. You need somebody to be a little bit worse than them. So you got demons. Honestly, who cares? I just want to buy like a bird magician. Look at
Bird
that.
magician.
So cool. So combining all this together on the
Hey, actually, this one looks easier to paint compared to the other ones, because the factions have a lots of parts. This one is just, look at this one. This one is just red and some the ashes of black. This one's just mostly blue. I think they're easier to paint. Except this ones. This one has some detail going on.
tabletop, Chaos Demons are generally very melee-based. They run in, go really hard. You have lots of summoning and conjuring, tons of spells. Generally a little bit frail, but they have special saves to make them a little bit stronger. You've got giant demons and smaller demons. You got hordes of little boys and tons of big guys.
Damn.
Demons are, as they seem, demons. Nurgle is slow. Khorne is super scary in melee. You've got Zeech, who are far more into psychers and spellcasting, and then Slanesh, who is all melee, really, really, really fast but squishy.
So they're
but
more
lots of
unified
hordes,
color-wise.
tons of melee and pain damage, of course. So overall, the demons are a huge part of 40k and a massive threat to almost every single faction.
Wait, and all of these, every single unit, if you kill them, if you try to kill them, they don't die unless you're a blank sister thingy of silence. So they won't die unless you're like that. They just go back to the warp or something.
With the exception of a couple. However, the big part about demons is also transferred into the other 9 Primarchs we had talked about, which are the Chaos Space Marines.
Chaos Astartes.
So Horus and all of his boys, all of them in the Primarchs, they have all also become Chaos Boys, and they all have their own special Chaos Legions, specializing in so many different things, just like the Adeptus Astartes, the Angels of Death, the regular Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines aren't a whole lot different than the regular Space Marines. They have the same armor.
Or gusto mo iba yung natirang
Kahit ano, whatever you want.
We still have mushrooms, no?
I think so.
And training and toughness. They specialize in different kinds of things. And also a lot of the Primarchs
Pre-heresy,
into
post-heresy.
greater demons.
Are they kind of stronger than Marines because they have... They're basically demon-powered Space Marines?
Pretty awesome.
I just when I saw
To be
this
honest,
earlier.
They look really, really cool. But them and their associated legions that they are a part of are all kind of going out there and causing a large ruckus for everyone else. Considering the raw strength and firepower of a legion of Space Marines, imagine that entire legion just converting to chaos and immediately fighting you. It's generally pretty horrible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, so I gotta write them down. But you've got the Emperor's Children with Primarch Fulgrim, loyal to Slanesh.
Oh.
These people, they are some messed up people.
There's barely any face
Sensory
there.
Overload, tons of drugs, tons of torture.
Yeah.
And I think Fulgrim is a demon Primarch right now. And oh god,
This looks like a purple Arthas Illidan. Who's that one? The snake one in World of War, Ajara. It's like a combination of those main characters.
I am terrified to see what that man looks like. At least on the table.
So like a Warcraft character.
Emperor's Children are not good people. You've got the Iron Warriors, which
Iron
are kind
Warriors.
of like opposite of the Imperial Fists, with Primarch Perturabo, I believe is his name. They're Chaos Undivided. They just kind of serve Chaos in a general aspect instead of choosing one of the 4. But the Iron Warriors are big on the siege and fortification, and they're basically entirely against the Imperial Fists and are a major rival. Perturabo, I believe, is also still alive, and I'm also very interested to see what he looks like, because Demon Primarchs are badass. You've got the Night Lords with Primarch Conrad Kurz. Conrad Kurz is dead, which is good because he's a sick fuck. But the Night Lords are generally about terror.
I mean, isn't everyone a sick fuck technically based on how he portrayed the other guys? I mean, even the human factions, right?
Terrorizing people and terrorism. They're generally about fear, and rightly so. You've got the World Eaters with Primarch Angron.
Are those
still
heads?
alive.
Yeah, those are.
Also excited to see. Angron. If you think you've known an angry person, Angron is the angriest son of a bitch you will.
His name is Angron, and his shtick is being angry. That is so 90s cartoony. I am dark Core, the darkness guy. His name is Angron because he's angry.
Will ever know. Angron removed parts of his brain that didn't make him angry.
He's so
he
90s
could be
cartoon-ish.
angrier. Angron.
I am terrorizer, the terror guy. I don't
Fucker's mad. You've got the Death Guard with Primarch Mortarion. They
Mortarion, the death guy.
actually have their own special codex and their own major army on the tabletop. Mortarion himself is actually one of the models.
Oh, that looks kind of cool though. I'm not gonna lie, this one looks kind of unique. It's like a space marine with, are those skin for wings and eyes? That's also hell to paint. So I guess, remember the one with the space wolves? So I guess their name is Lucius or Lucian or, you know,
And look at him.
Wolfram, Wolfen.
It's so cool looking. Of course, Nurgle based, obviously. So very slow but very tanky. You got the Word Bearers with Primarch Morgar.
I don't know. I can Word Bearer.
Up with him at the current moment, but the Word Bearers are generally the people who caused all the major problems in the beginning.
And they're the big
At least
bad.
I blame them for it. They're little assholes. You got the Black Legion with Primarch Horus. Get fucked, nerd. You got the Alpha Legion with Primarch Alfarius Omegon.
Oh,
Chaos,
Farius and Megan.
I think. And then finally, you've got the
What?
Thousand Suns with Primarch Magnus the Nerd.
Wait. This is Egyptian-ish. Why is Horus on the Black Legion? Horus should be the ones leading this, guys, because they look more Egyptian-themed than the other one.
Thousand Suns also have their own book, just like the Death Guard. Magnus is also a tabletop model. He looks
Magnus doesn't sound like a good name for an Egyptian-themed thing. And they should switch. So Magnus should be the ones leading the Black Legion, and then Horus should be the ones leading this Egyptian guys.
super cool, as you can tell, and they're all
Hello there,
super
they're
psycher
super
and
Egyptian
themed.
themed,
They
yeah.
look pretty neat. But overall, with all of these Chaos Space Marine factions, you can play as a lot of different ones, but the main ones that you can really work at are standard Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, as well as the Death Guard and Thousand Suns, as they are the most fleshed out, especially on the tabletop at least. See this right here? This is a really good way to describe the Chaos Space Marines.
All right.
What the thick-headed fools with their broken corpse of an emperor fail to understand is that not only can they never defeat us, but they cannot hide or flee or shield themselves from the triumph of chaos. They are finite and we are unbound, undivided. They must not err, or they shall fall to heresy. All who fall join our cause. Every imperial fool who dares to open his eyes is a willing recruit. They strive merely to hold back our fury and might, and it consumes them. Thus, you can see chaos is inevitable. We lurk not only beyond their grasp and at their gates, we lurk within the darkness of their souls, on the tip of their tongues, in their tortured dreams. We are them, but freed from the shackles of ignorance. We are them, grown strong, evolved. We are them, but so much more.
Damn.
As hardcore as that quote is, the saddest part is they're mostly right. Chaos is basically unkillable. You could probably get rid of Space Marines a decent amount, the Chaos Space Marines that is, but every soul that dies goes to the warp.
Also, it's not just the demon. Even the people corrupted by demons become immortal just because of that? Is that how it works?
Every Chaos soul will end up back in the warp. And depending on how hard you killed them, they will come back at some point. Every
They're
demon
infinite.
vanish will return at some point. Chaos is unstoppable.
So yeah, that is why you need the blank people, right? They're the ones that stop you from regenerating.
Warp is unending. And while maybe there is at some point some way to stop them somehow, the resources to do so, the requirements to do so are so far beyond the reaches of man. And
but what if you use magic?
Moment
Oh, there's no magic here.
It's just an unstoppable force that just keeps on coming, and it's just barely being slowed.
Blanks are immune to
Chaos
fuckery.
is by far the biggest threat. They are without number. Their legions are everywhere, and yeah, they're pretty scary.
Dark magic
So,
space marines.
I promise, we're done with humans now. Let's talk about some Xenos.
They still look human. I guess they're the space elves.
So let's talk about the Eldar, or also known as the Eldari, which are a
Eldari.
super hyper-specialized and very technical.
They look like Protoss, actually.
Of, well, elf people. They were as well.
They also look
responsible
Protoss.
for the creation of Slaanesh.
Ah, the Protoss ones are the
How'd they do that?
the green ones.
Debauchery on a world-ending scale. So back in the day, it was just Khorne, Tzeentch, and Nurgle.
Mhm.
And the Eldar are very, very ancient. Millions of years. These Eldar, however,
fought
have
hard.
a bit of a sensory problem. You know, every kind of pain or feeling that you have is a little bit amplified
space
compared
elves,
to
yeah.
normal. However, with Eldar, as their race advanced so excessively, and they became so self-reliant, and everything became so easy, there was no requirement for food production anymore. There was no shortages. Everything was basically done. Everyone was so comfortable. And that comfort breeded this weird sedation. And that sedation breeded the requirement for more and more
Okay.
debauchery.
Debauchery! They fucked so hard it created Slaanesh.
So easily acquired, you will end up down this road of pure debauchery. All of the senses the Eldar had that were so powerful, things like feeling, happiness, sadness, and just evil and good, all needed to be satisfied and satiated.
Guys, they goon so hard, vanilla doesn't make it anymore. It doesn't do it for them anymore. They had to try the different tags. We're done with vanilla. We're done with the usual tags.
And the desire to satiate these senses grew more and more with worse and worse debauchery. It started off with things like
They're the reason why N Hentai has so many pages of tags instead of just 3 or 4 maps.
sex and drugs becoming so much more rampant because these are the first things you generally turn to when requirements for living are so easily accessible. It would get to the point that made Sander Cohen in BioShock insane. All right, this is the kind.
So in food, they're so bored of pizza, they started putting pineapples on it.
Kind of debauchery it led to. It was constantly satisfying and satiating these sexual and sadistic or masochistic fantasies that only elevated and elevated. And this was species-wide. People started going down darker, more depraved, and more violent paths as time went on.
Oh my god, wait. There's also another one. They're like Skyrim modders. Like they're like game modders. They started with the QOL, it starts with the simple QOL mod. And then they decided, what if I added an extra feature? What if I added an extra texture? What if I added an extra skin? And then to the point that their Skyrim doesn't look like Skyrim anymore.
However, some people didn't entirely take to that. Some of the Eldar were looking at this depraved species that they had become and said, no thanks for me, dog, I'm good. And they bailed. These are the Craft World Eldar. They left on these giant continent-sized starships called
Craft World.
Worlds. They believed in learning
like the Spear of
old
Adun.
ways
Spear
of
of
the
Adun.
Eldar and pushing away from this depravity and debauchery and going back to their main roots. And so they would segment themselves on these giant craft worlds far in the outer reaches.
This is just a glowy Star Destroyer. This is basically a cross between Mon Calamari Cruiser and a Star Destroyer, and then make it glowy. That's what it is.
Of space. They even had this thing called the Webway. Remember what we mentioned
Webway.
about warp travel with the Imperium? Well, the Eldar had something way safer called a Webway. The Eldar Webway is actually like a pocket dimension. It's kind of thing.
You're using a
In
different
that pocket
VP
dimension,
ISP.
There were also more horrible, depraved groups and clans that would spend their time in there. And if you imagine the debauchery was bad already, these were debauchery X10. So
It's they use a different ISP, I guess, and yeah, it's like PLDT versus Converge.
all of this continued and it bloated until Slaanesh just
There we go.
burst.
There's
All
there
that
and
emotion, all that mental, well, thought processes, I suppose.
Mhm.
All of this in such a condensed space. Don't forget, this is all being shot, all their souls as well, into the warp.
Yeah, okay.
All this depravity right into the warp. So what happened? Boom. Slaanesh was birthed and killed off 90% of the entire Eldar population.
Damn.
Untold trillions of
Trillions.
their souls ripped from their bodies and their actual fleshy bodies devoured by Slaanesh demons. The entirety of the Eldar race was eaten alive and their souls consumed to the Prince of Pleasure. All of them got fucked up. It was so bad that it literally ripped
I like how his feet this time is like elf shoes. Christmas elf.
a warp hole into the fabric of the materium called the Eye of Terror. That's literally this like quasi horrifying gateway portal from the materium and the immaterium right next to Cadia. And it is horrifying. So this Slaanesh, also known as She Who Thirsts,
Horny on man.
slaughtered the
Horny on
entire
man.
population except for a couple. Those in the craft worlds were actually not affected by this as they were so far in the reaches of the galaxy. That crazy crack
Elf on the
that
shelf,
brought
yeah.
Slaanesh only affected the ones in the center. So these craft world Eldar were able to escape, but Slaanesh got their sights
Yeah.
on them. Every time an Eldar will die, their soul doesn't just pass into the warp naturally. It goes straight to Slaanesh, craft world or not.
Okay.
One of those people in the webway. Well, imagine that giant birth happening.
They have like a samurai-ish thing going in here with the banners thingy and
But they were only able to just barely get a grasp onto you. Slaanesh
although the
was just
plumes look Roman.
barely able to hold on. These people are the Dark Eldar, or also known as the Drukhari.
Dark
The
El-
Eldar
space dark
population
elves.
right now is so massively small. It is minuscule compared to any of the other most of the other populations in the universe. The Eldar are consistently having issues trying
This
to
one
get
looks
populations
Protoss, actually.
up, because as their souls are constantly being hungered by from Slaanesh, they realize their entire species is doomed. And they understand it very well. Since the time of the fall, our race has been haunted by what we, in our reckless pursuit of hedonistic indulgence, gave birth to. Though our dreams once overturned worlds and quenched suns, we are now but fitful shadows clinging to the edge of existence. All the stars in the sky cannot blot out the hateful glare of the red
Moon's eye.
The birthing place of the great enemy pulses with all the malice of a demon that is dreaming, casting its shadow over all we have ever done and all we ever shall. Every twisted strand of fate and casting of the runes leads me to this time, to this place, and it is clear that the final battle awaits me at the ancient Crone worlds, a conflict the likes of which has not been seen since the Monkai warred amongst themselves and their corpse of a seer fell to his traitorous son. Is coming, and all my steps lead towards it, no matter that I walk other paths. I see the stars stained red with the blood of the Monkai, and though their wars do not concern me, I would gladly let them destroy one another. I know that to avoid this fight is to condemn my race to inevitable doom, and though all I see is darkness, I know that I will not flinch from my destiny. And now let's talk about cute plastic models.
What?
Bro, I'm straight
Cute
up
plastic
having a good
models?
time.
The first playable race we have for the
Oh,
Eldar
Craft World
are the
Eldar.
Craft
Okay,
World
okay.
Eldar, as living in those Craft World starships I mentioned earlier, and each of them have their own kind of craft world, almost like a Space Marine Legion. Each craft world is in itself its own special kind of group. The Eldar themselves are very fast and rely a lot on trickery. They are squishy, a bit weak, but they're very in
I'm not a fan of how their ships look like. It looks so I don't know. The human ones look cooler.
tune as psychers. Tons of psychers across the entire Eldar population, and their weaponry and abilities are fast and extremely hard-hitting, but of course rather fragile. Understanding an Eldar's brain is an exercise in futility. They are all
So do they have better
in
weapons?
confusion and trickery on a whole galactic scale. They fight weird, they think weirder, and
They
Eldar
fight
in
weird
their
too.
own right really rely on this to keep their species alive.
So their main shtick is like their high value units, I guess, but there's not much of them left.
They need to think about deception and the strangeness of what they do.
Oh, but
they
they're
truly want to not be immediately murdered and slaughtered wholesale, thanks to
Yeah.
their entirely small population. However, I must say that it seems like their population is getting slightly better. These craft worlds hold millions upon millions of people, and as they continually, reproduce and have their craft worlds expand,
these ones are slightly
losing
better
that many people
looking.
in battle, while hurts a lot,
Yeah.
they aren't really losing what's extremely precious to them. It's not like every single death means the death of their species. It seems like they're kind of on the upturn a little bit. They're still a doomed race being sucked into Slaanesh every time someone dies,
Yeah.
but they are definitely doing a little bit better than they were before. Eldar are fast, cunning, and what they don't make up for in tankiness, they make up for in extremely advanced weaponry.
Okay.
They also call humans Monkai, which is something I mentioned earlier.
It's just monkey.
That is a derogatory
Wait.
slur.
So they did things. They fucked so hard that a demon prince was born, like the Slaanesh, the demon prince of Exes, and now they got wiped out. And every time someone dies, they go to the demon prince, so Slaanesh. And there's not enough of them anymore, right? There's not a lot of them. You know how they're gonna come back? They kinda have to start playing harder again so they can replenish their how it comes full circle.
For humans in the Warhammer world. Why is it called Monkai? Well, it's
'Cause it sounds like
you
monkey.
can't, in your game, call people monkeys.
I guess, yeah.
On the tabletop, exactly what I said.
Oh, these ones are easy to paint. Look. Guys, we only need 2 colors. Finally. Something that's not hard to paint.
Generally pretty squishy, hit like trucks, and move at Mach 5. Fast, hit hard, die fast. Exactly how it sounds. They've been good for a very long time.
They're traumatized from flying too hard. Oh no.
Too. We bring only death and leave only carry-on. It is a message even a human can understand.
Oh no.
Eldar. So, Drukhari. Let's talk about the Dark Eldar.
On today's episode,
Wait, did they just
I fucked up,
cover
it's
the
fucked up.
same race twice?
That's fucked up.
So those people I mentioned in the Webway, in the super deranged cults
Uh-huh.
and the depraved people of the Eldar, in the Webway they didn't quite get a hold onto them. So that actually has them, but it has them on by the pinky finger.
Elders
And
are
it's
racist.
slowly being consumed by Slaanesh, but they found out they can stave her off
Uh-huh.
by doing Slaanesh things. The Dark Eldar are by far the worst, most horrifying, disgusting, depraved, and brutal race in all of Warhammer 40k.
What?
These are entirely a group of people whose full purpose to save their species from extinction, to go into planets, raid them, and take as many slaves as they possibly can to torture them for 1, 5, 10, 20, a million years.
Okay.
Because that torture will keep them from dying. They look very
What?
BDSM style too. They definitely have a lot more spiky.
Oh, so these are the ones who kept doing it. They're the ones who kept falling. They're the ones that weren't traumatized.
And they have a lot more of that kind of leathery black look to them. But let's say you are an upstanding Imperial citizen,
Yeah.
living life on a regular planet. You get invaded by the Necrons. The Necrons will shoot
Oh, these are the ones that I thought were Protoss-ish because they're like lanky and stuff, energy-based.
you with a deatomizer, and you will be destroyed in a millisecond, and that's it. Not the worst way to go. You are invaded by Chaos Marines or something. You take a bolter
I like the horns on this helmet.
shot to the head or a chain sword across your stomach, and you get cut in half. Painful, but
Yeah.
the worst.
Yeah.
The orcs arrive. They beat you to death. Hurts, but whatever.
It sucks to
They
be a-
eat you alive. Pretty rough. The Dark Eldar. The Dark Eldar. This is gonna get a little graphic. I apologize. You pray you die. You don't. You are instead taken as a human slave.
Uh-huh.
Your life will be endless work and agony, 24/7. They will make sure you can't not die, as your pain satisfies them.
Okay.
They will hook you up to all manner of torture devices. They will inject pain-based like stimuli drugs directly into your nervous system. They will slowly run razor blades across your skin.
Isn't this like the same as the assassin one? The human popsicle, human nuke, drug addict assassin? Isn't that the same as this one?
They will fillet you and just pull out your teeth
From part
and your
1?
fingernails one by one.
Uh-huh.
They'll remove your appendages and your skin and wait for it to grow back so they can do it again. They will murder and torture.
They're ultra
and
dicks.
Use the R word. It rhymes with grape.
Oh,
Your
no.
entire family in front of you and do the exact same thing to them. You yourself will also be rhymes with grape anywhere and everywhere possible. And this
Oh,
will
no.
occur for 20 years until you are no longer satisfying to them.
What?
And then you will be contorted, crushed, and twisted
Uh-huh.
into some form of trophy. A fleshy trophy, or a ring, or a couch, or a TV stand, or perhaps a wonderful hat. While you are, of course, still alive and breathing. And you will become a moaning,
Damn.
fleshy trophy for eternity.
Gonna be a human couch.
And that is what happens when
Well, it could be worse, no? They could turn you into a toilet or something.
you are taken by the Dark Eldar. They are the most depraved, most horrifying race.
What if they transform you into one of those, you know, things? Yeah, I don't know, never.
In all of 40k. They look the part, and they do it so they all don't die. They are literally forced to do this, because if they don't, Slaanesh grip
they're still
will get
traumatized.
harder, and they will have their souls pulled away. So long as they keep doing this, Slaanesh is like, "You're doing good, man. You're doing solid. You keep that shit up, you elf-eared bastards." that's the Dark Eldar. That's the Drukhari. They are horrible. On the tabletop, they're actually kind of like Eldar, but more extreme. They are even squishier than the Eldar, but they hit generally even harder. Fast attacks.
That's their coping
skirmishers,
mechanism,
really
yeah,
quick, Speed, like get around them. Do a lot of
Having
damage
withdrawal
right away.
symptoms if they
That's
stop.
most of the Dark Eldar. Look up the definition of Grim Dark in a dictionary. You'll find a picture of the Dark Eldar. And Sev from Public Commando.
What?
A quote
What?
from Mr. Vect. "We are the lords of despair, masters of terror. Dread and agony are our meat and wine, and they are plentiful indeed." Dark Eldar. Let's talk about the Harlequins. Clowns.
What's the matter, Andy?
There's so many elves and elf factions. I guess this is the second
Harlequins are a
one.
bizarre race of Eldar. They're
So I guess they're like the second main regular universe species. It's, elves and men, usually. Are there dwarves? I hope there are space dwarves.
demonic clown performers. They're like a weird mix of Sander Cohen from BioShock and Jin.
Yeah, Jin from yeah, that's what I
but in a
thought.
more clown
Jin
theme.
from
They're
League of
artists
Legends.
of death and perfecters of their craft. They do not belong to craft worlds or any of the weird Drukhari people. They guard something called the Black Library, which is this giant tome of never-ending knowledge deep in the
This
heart
isn't
of the
so
Elven
clownish.
Webway, and also guarded by their god named Kegorok, I believe is how you pronounce his
Kegorok.
name. He is the laughing god, but it's the
Different
Eldar's
god.
laughing god. And these are the Harlequins, the Harlequin clowns. These are Eldar clowns. Okay, so imagine the things that an Eldar, these depraved individuals, would find funny, and this is the god of that. It's a horror.
Okay.
These are gods of horror for us normal people. For them, they're like, oh, it's so funny. They're all dying horribly.
Damn.
Honk, honk. They're very bizarre and difficult to
So they're like a extra malicious version of Loki.
describe. They've escaped the ruinous powers of Slaanesh somehow, but their main thing is guarding that Black Library. And the Harlequins they're demon clown performers. They're barely
They're Shaco.
models of
They're
the
Shaco
tabletop.
from League of
They're
Legends.
good in melee. They're
Oh, these are
demon
hard to
clowns.
paint.
I'm not sure. I
Those
got a quote.
patterns?
It is too easy for an Eldar to embrace the obscene virtues of chaos, for Slaanesh is nothing more than a manifestation of the Eldar mind in its most wild and unconstrained form. Human morality is meaningless to the Eldar, and to the dark side of the Eldar mind, all life is to be expended at a whim. Cruelty and generosity are but the impulse of a moment. Beauty and sensuality are virtues that can be expressed in bloodshed just as easily as in song. To an unfettered Eldar mind, there is neither sanity nor madness, but merely a wave of perfect existence fulfilled by its own savage momentum. They're very strange.
So these are like the super chaotic neutral faction, I guess.
Harlequins, Drukhari, Eldar, they are an anomaly that make humans.
So even chaos demons
easy
don't
to understand in comparison. They range from rekindling their civilization to horrifying murder and
So they're
also
both
clowns. They're all over the place, but honestly, they represent quite well and are rather interesting, especially with the whole Slanesh murdering everyone bit. So, yeah, Eldar. Now,
they're not pro
Why are they
Slanesh.
following me, Mom?
Tyranids.
The bugs.
The
the
bugs.
Tyranids. Now, you want to talk
Oh, they're
something
anti-demon?
fun, a little more simple than all this crazy Eldar shenanigans? Let's talk the Tyranids. They're bugs. They look like Zerg.
They're Zerg, yeah.
Zerg. You want to know why I look like Zerg? Because they were actually supposed to...
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, StarCraft was supposed to be like Warhammer 40k. You have Zerg, you have...
what Zerg were.
Yeah.
Apparently StarCraft was supposed to be a 40k game in the beginning, hence why they look so much like Eldar, Zerg, and the Imperium of Man.
Yeah.
Like, kind of Space Marine-y, those Marines, huh?
Yeah, Marines.
That's a little bit Space Marine-y to me. Maybe. I don't know. You really fucked up on that one, Games Workshop, didn't ya? Tyranids are a giant infestation of
I can see the Zerg influence. So
these are giant,
top appendages,
bio-advanced hive mind organisms that are basically all about absorbing as much biomass as they possibly can to evolve and mutate to be extremely
they just
potent,
assimilate
powerful,
everything
and kill and eat anything in their
Yeah.
path. They are probably the least evil faction in all of 40k because all they want to do is
They're the least.
they want to nom.
They're the least evil faction in Warhammer 40k. That sucks. If this is your least evil faction, I guess because they're not doing it out of malice. They really just want to eat.
The entire galaxy.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
angry and we food. Also, this
They're
Tyranid
ang-
hive mind has a presence in the warp.
Damn.
In fact, Tyranids in their own right have a massive presence in the warp. They have a thing called the shadow in the warp specifically, where when they are coming in to invade a planet,
What's this?
they
Hold on.
have
Let me back rid of it. So there was a space dwarf race, but somehow they got retconned. They're called Squats. Squats existed in early 40k, but GW... What's GW? Decided, I guess, the devs, basically, decided to discontinue, so they incorporated the lore their disappearance by making their civilizations wiped out by the Tyranids. Oh, okay.
have this weird ability to kind of cut off the warp on all the cycles.
That's a Hydralisk. That's a Zergling.
How do you get help across the stars? Well, you need the warp because you need that for interstellar travel. So with people unable to call for help from the Tyranids, these are just easy pickings. And an entire giant Tyranid hive fleet comes out of orbit and just will massacre, absorbing all that biomass and turning them and all of their other Tyranids into even more advanced monsters. They come in so many varieties.
These are
all
Zerglings.
based on what is important. Tiny little Ripper swarms for scouting and having little dudes eat people up, to the Hormagons, Termagants, and Gene Stealers.
I know what these ones are.
The Hive Guard and the Exocrines and the Swarm Lord, to Hive Tyrants and their giant battle fleets.
They have
and
swords,
even something
though.
as crazy
They're not
as the
like
Hierophant
biological.
Bio-Titan. The Tyranids come in all forms and sizes depending on what
Hill
they require.
divers?
They are extremely good at anti-biological weaponry. There is no way you can plague them or blight them. They have extremely strong armor, carapaces and such.
Yeah.
Tyranids are nigh perfect organisms and are
This one reminds me of the Zerg. It's like a giant Zergling, but with swords. I'd say Ultralisk, but Ultralisks are like super different looking, so... yeah.
pretty spooky when it comes down to how they handle all of their genetic material. Keep feeding them, they'll keep evolving. They keep on...
What?
Can I send you on a quest?
Creating
Yeah,
new horrifying
Watermelon
organisms
and
to
Chico.
spread across
Ah,
the
okay.
galaxy. And you want to know what the most terrifying part of the Tyranids is?
Yeah.
We might be surrounded. There have
What?
been like around 6 or 7 Tyranid hive fleets. Behemoth, Kronos, all these
Hive
different kinds of
fleets.
hive fleets. And they've all arrived in the galaxy from different points.
Oh, they're-
different sections of the Milky Way galaxy have had different Tyranids come.
Wait, so does that mean they're also technically the strongest faction? Because they have already, like, conquered the galaxies around? They're coming from different directions, so that means they're coming from surrounding galaxies. And, I'm guessing everything in Warhammer is just happening in the Milky Way, right? So these are, like, greater scope villains.
that
Yeah,
is
no, they're not,
horrifying.
yeah.
Because as far as we know, we could just be surrounded
Yeah.
on all sides by Tyranids. The only reason you may not hear a whole lot about Tyranids is because it's a little bit hard to have a bunch of story.
Yeah, they're
off
kind of
of
they're kind of
one
hard to
hive
say.
mind
Yeah.
genocidal monsters. All these giant bugs swarming in, killing and eating everybody and evolving.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, as cool as there are, there's some cool characters.
This image is just disturbing. Like, imagine, like, this is the entire galaxy and these are, like, the swarm.
The Swarm Lord, Old One Eye. You can't really have a whole bunch of major character-based stories around them. As awesome as they are, they're simple. They want to eat you. They want
Most
to
of
eat
the
you
races
and
in 40k
absorb
are
your
afraid of
biomass. They are
Tyranids.
simple
Oh, yeah.
bugs. If you want something a little more complex, talk Gene Stealer cults.
They're more like,
All I want,
what?
I get around faster than walking, and wherever I need a seat, I can just sit on my balls.
Gene Stealer cults are a special brand of Tyranid that can slowly infect themselves into different
They're
kinds of
infested
society.
Terrans.
And by infecting them, they can rise up to where they all pray and believe in these regular humans.
So, would you say that the Chaos Gods are also bothered by Tyranids? Like the demons also have to be careful with the Tyranids?
Humans pray and believe into their Tyranid hive mind
Yeah.
gods. And these brood lords and I think they're called patriarchs all can turn an entire world all based into Gene Stealers. And these are called Gene Stealer cults. An entire hive world of the Imperium can be turned into nothing but
Like, they also
service
corrupt, like,
Tyranid
the
masters just
Chaos
by
Gods.
infecting them and screwing with their
Well-
genetic code a
Well, it's less of corruption and more like infestation, yeah.
little bit. They also have this cool like Mad Max look, which is really neat. They are definitely one of the bigger threats to the Imperium besides Chaos. I keep saying biggest.
Is
threat
it a
to the Imperium.
biogun?
They're up there though because
Like, is this one a biogun? It's like a living rifle or something?
Dingus stepped on a bug in middle school. Asshole.
If
There
all
is
life
an
got wiped out,
answer
who's gonna power
eating at
them?
the
Yeah.
Imperium. With each decade, it advances deeper, leaving drained, dead worlds in its wake. This horror, this abomination, has thought and purpose that functions on an unimaginable galactic scale. And all we can do is to try to stop the swarms of
Yeah.
bioengineer monsters it unleashes upon us by instinct. We have given the horror a name to salvage our fears. We call it the Tyranid
To salve
race.
the salvage.
But if it is aware of us, it must know us as nothing but prey.
Damn.
Tyranids.
So they're more like a force of nature.
But
Than
are they as cool as the orcs?
Or the Covenant. The orcs. The orcs.
Orcs, 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 orcs.
I guess he likes orcs.
Love orcs.
Yeah, he loves orcs. There
the,
we go.
the green monsters, the green tide, the green skins.
Greenskins.
These orcs, they are in fact a race in 40k. The orcs.
Your
are,
favorite
as
faction?
They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old teeth, and they want to kill everything, and there are so many of them. The only reason they haven't taken over the entire galaxy is they can't stop murdering each other. Orcs are so cool. Orcs don't have philosophy. Orcs don't have existential crisis.
Yeah.
What matters is who's the biggest orc. You listen to that guy, because he the biggest orc. He big orc, big orc,
Big
knows
orc.
best. You win through the power of imagination. Of all the races on the battlefield of the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic?
They're Filipinos, guys.
As an orc, you're enjoying life. you're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is the man who understands everything. He is the boss. And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent, which is just
They're British?
Those are orcs. You fight. You like to fight. Your
Are they British because they're based on Tolkien orcs?
whole purpose is to fight. You wage war because you want to wage war. You got your boss over there, and you better listen to the boss.
The boss.
Listen to the boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs. And then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead, orc dead can't fight.
Yeah.
Because orc dead. Orcs. They scrap together machines out of parts that don't make any sense. And
They're Borderlands. Yeah, they're the guys from Borderlands.
because they believe, they have the mental imagination that that machine will run, it'll run. If that machine's out of gas, you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you is like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like,
No, it
we're
isn't.
not.
Oh,
I
yeah.
filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh, yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the
That's
fucking
stupid.
mech back on, and it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not, but it works. The power of imagination. They paint things red because it makes them think they goes faster. They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color.
Okay.
You know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are also like ancient as hell.
So they're basically the Looney Tunes race. They're Looney Tunes. That's what they are. Like when you paint the road thingy on the wall, you can pass through that because they think it's a real road. Yeah.
They're back in the Eldari time frame. Back then they were called Krorks, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're pretty spooky.
So they're like the opposite of the Delulu people because whatever they think, it's actually real. But the Delulu people is whatever they think, it's just what they think. It's not actually real.
Not very well armored, but they hit really hard, and it's called the Green Tide because there are so
Green
many
Tide.
orcs. There are about as many orcs as there are Tyranids, maybe more.
Yeah.
Who knows? But they keep on, murdering each other, so it's not too bad.
They're the perfect,
Orcs are entirely comic relief. Their stuff is slapped together. That makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works.
It's just using goblins as ammunition.
Orcs care only about who is the biggest orc, and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc. And then when they go and they issue a...
They're like children, basically. They're, in rock, paper, scissors, and you think of random bullshit. Yeah, that's what they are, I guess.
Wa. A wa is just war.
A wa.
In orc, they murder everybody and everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited
Look
to
at
be
that.
hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they get to beat shit up. That's orcs. And on the tabletop, they are a total coin flip.
Oh, they're so hard to. They look so hard to
I have never
paint.
met a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So you just Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained. Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're just super.
Yeah, they're
well
super.
trained.
Yeah.
Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher.
What?
But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot.
Bootleg of a bootleg.
With
Wait. Can you explain that again?
a 3 or higher because target. They have a 50 Imperial Guardsmen. When they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher.
Or higher,
Trained.
okay.
Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're just super well trained. Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher.
So they rarely hit anything because 5 or 6. It's like a 30% chance of hitting.
But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot.
So they're like crit builds, I guess.
With anything. From the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're so wacky and silly. But the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people.
They're like
And if you
momentum
don't,
crit builds.
you lose. I mean, that's what you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play orc. It's a coin flip. Which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs, because things won't go your way.
So guys, if you are a Genshin, if you're a gacha player, I guess the orcs are the best faction, I guess. Because you're already used to low chances of winning.
It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're going to have fun, and you want to be stupid, and you want to be silly...
Yeah, you have to be like drunk to play this.
Orcs. But on the opposite side of the fun part of this, let's talk about the Necrons.
Necrons. This one's one of the I thought this ones are the Protoss ones.
Are spooky, scary skeletons and very grimdark again. They have a much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just undead Egyptian space terminators, and they
undead Egyptian space terminators.
So way back in the day, you had the Necron tier. Kind of see a theme here: Eldari, Eldar, Orc, Necron, Necron tier. So the Necron tier.
They're not good at making up names, I guess.
Generally, kind of shitty.
Yeah.
People. Not because they were personally shitty, because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a horrible existence of like radiation and...
There was this one instance that when the Imperial Army managed to get a tank created by the orcs, and they got baffled because it has no engine and yet it moves.
A terrible
power of imagination.
Everything just really sucked. Being a Necron tier was just really depressing. They really were looking for immortality. They were extremely reliant on the hope that they would eventually find the key to living forever and to stave off.
Is there the progenitors of some sort?
They were thrust upon them, and therefore they could become the most dominant race in the galaxy. And they found this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like the Forerunners in Halo.
Xel'Naga. Yeah, Xel'Naga. There we go.
These Old Ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings. And they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said, please, show us your ways. And the Old Ones said, piss off. Not really. They were a lot more humble about it. But they did not want to share their secret of immortality with the Necrons. The Necrons, of course, took this very well.
Damn.
And waged war with them. Kind of under this united banner.
They fought the gods.
Different dynasties didn't really like each other. But under this one man, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite his race was to do this giant war with the Old Ones out of spite for them keeping the secret of immortality to them. This was known as the War in Heaven.
War in
Heaven. This is actually like a multi-stage war. Because during this war in heaven, they discovered the Star Gods, a whole new race of people known as the Catan, or the Catan. These Star Gods were
this is different from the
almost omnipotent beings, and they too had the key to immortality. And so the Necrons went to them and said, hey, can you help us fight off the Old Ones? Can you help us kill these Old Ones?
Okay.
You, the Catan. And the Catan said yes. And in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek. So the Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact with the Catan.
Oh no, this is gonna be bad for them.
This generous gift of immortality upon them. But this, of course, had been a horrendous trap.
Yep.
And the Necrons were dragged in chains to this biotransference where their flesh was stripped from them, replaced with nothing but a metal hollow shell as their souls were ripped from their bodies.
Hey, so they're like they're like Mega Adeptus Mechanicus, except it's against their will.
And fed to the Catan. And the Catan fattened up. They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons. As this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic...
They're like a machine race now.
Just to serve their will. And then, with their new-founded Necron army, they pointed their guns at the Old Ones, and the Catan continued their domination of the stars. and their genocide, complete and
Oh, man.
full genocide of these old ones. The old ones did their
So
best
they're
to
like
stay
robot
they
slave
created
race.
other races, the Eldari and the Orcs,
Yeah.
to try to fight off the horrifying Necron army and the Catan above them. But there was absolutely no possible chance for them. And the old ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy. Their entire race
So these are the actual strongest race, right?
completely removed. Full on 100% genocide.
They're god
However,
killers.
during all this, the Catan, so just infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences, doesn't matter. The Catan, with these overpowered people, they're going to eventually hit each other at some point. And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldari and the Orcs actually started pushing on the Catan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a
Did
run
they
for
team
their
up?
money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided to leap into action and start a full-scale revolt against their Catan masters. And this revolt was bloody, as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were able to, just after suffering horrendous losses, were able to turn the tide of the war.
Fair.
And they took these Catan and they blasted them. Because as these star gods are unkillable, they were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of their old gods enslaved to
They have a god slave. They have god slaves.
them, they realized that soon their race was about to be attacked by the overcoming new races, the Eldari and the Krorks. And so what they did is they retreated into giant stasis tombs in order to preserve their energy and their strength for when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy that was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and the Necrons are back, and they see all these primitive races on their lawns, and they think, get
out of my
off of it. The Necrons are back, super advanced, and they're here to reclaim the galaxy that they so rightfully believe is theirs. Now, at tabletop, they're a lot like that. Tons of undead Egyptian skeleton robots that...
You know, when I look at them, I think Monster Energy drink. That's what I'm thinking.
When they die, they just get right back up because they keep on reanimating. Hard to kill, tons of crazy stuff. You can use the Catan themselves as units to fight with.
Damn, that's a massive figure.
The Necrons are one of the three major events in 40k. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events.
Okay.
And the Necrons themselves are pretty dang cool as well. Here's a good quote from a wonderful Dawn of War game.
Okay.
Lucky creatures, as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs I was remade. Here my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more. So come, poor victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts. Kronos will be a tomb world once more. Necrons are also pretty smug. Trays in the Infinite especially.
They're kind of condescending because they've been here first.
Last race. Let's talk
Dickheads.
The exact formation of the Tau Empire
Why is it like this? Why is his legs a skirt?
is not entirely understood. However, a long time ago, many thousands of years ago, in the 40k world that is, some Imperial navigation vessels were going around through different areas, and they saw a primitive race, blue people, smacking each other with sticks and stones. They thought, nah,
They're the Smurfs.
dumb Xenos race, who gives a shit, and they bailed. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks.
Uh-huh.
Well, they decided to actually have no war of any kind and all just unite together under one flag of the Tau Empire. And now they have gigantic starships and Gundam robots and lasers and railguns and mechs.
It's like
and they're
Macross,
here
actually.
to ruin your day for the greater good. That is generally the Tau Empire. They have this kind of feeling of this homogenous group. All species can go underneath the banner.
Oh, they're exclusive. They're inclusive.
Of the greater good. The greater good is their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all.
Different
In fact,
species,
they
yeah.
are most likely the most like the Covenant in Halo, where they have the overarching prophets, being
I can see that.
Imperials, who are actually kind of dicks. And
They're still dicks.
Pull at strings a little bit, but then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that
Are there humans in there?
weirdly pseudo-religious influence across the galaxy. The alien is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him, his ignorance. Seek to understand his differences and equate him with his inadequacies. Only then will he accept his place in the greater good.
See, they're not super xenophobic compared to the Imperials. There are some humans joining the Tau.
That is generally the Tau.
Oh.
And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, well, they're all about big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles and rail guns. They got giant mechs with tons of missile pods and heavy rail rifles and rail guns and burst cannons and ion accelerators.
They feel kind of out of place though, compared to the other ones. Like aesthetically speaking, they look more modern in terms of design compared to the other ones. Hindi ko I can't explain it. I think they're like the least fantastic looking. They're the least fantasy looking thing. At least the Dark Elves, they still have this elf thingy. The humans of course. And then
Raiders,
this ones look too high tech to be part of the 40k universe, I guess.
all this stuff. And that is generally what the Tau's all about. But you're probably thinking, Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil.
Yeah, it
This
doesn't
doesn't
evil.
sound very grim, dark Warhammer. And you'd be right. The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying, grim, dark style like everybody else. They're much more younger.
They look out of
thing.
place.
In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in the day, because they liked having like that good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So, see, the Tau get a lot of hate, and a lot of that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective, but as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently, they don't really fit in the 40k.
Exactly, they don't look like they're
They
Warhammer
like that
stuff.
super dark, dramatic, kind of high gothic level the Imperium has. They don't have the weird kind of like grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orcs do. And the Necrons and the Eldar have their own specific style as well. The Tau really do look like something out of Gundam. And while it isn't...
No, yeah, like said earlier, parang they actually look like Macross units. They look like they're from a different franchise. Siguro probably the closest thing I could say is like, imagine if you're playing Call of Duty. Imagine if you're playing Call of Duty, and then someone with a Fortnite skin joins. That isn't. Yeah, I guess like that. They look like guest. They look like a guest faction from a crossover. That's the best I can explain. They look like from a collab or something.
It's necessarily a bad thing. It does definitely not fit too well. There's that.
They're too clean.
Plus the tabletop problem.
They're too clean.
Tabletop Tau are horrible at melee combat, but exceptionally good at range combat. So they blast everyone from really, really far away, and they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat.
They look like they look like collab characters, I guess.
So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun, they're going to win every time because they're the Tau.
Oh, they're OP.
And the Tau are really damn good at shooting. So it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated, and a lot of different reasons for that, both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their issues, you should not be discouraged from playing them. I'll make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes, of course I will, but it's all generally in good fun. Anyone who legitimately doesn't want you to play a faction is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day. You pick what you think is cool and what you like. In Warhammer, especially now, factions get better and
Okay, hold on.
and they get worse.
Right, I'm back.
They grow and then they fall.
Oh, we're
You
almost
should
done.
only be playing what you think is cool. You like the look, you like the models. If you're talking tabletop, that is what you should be going for every time, is what you think is badass.
Yeah, but what if what you think is badass is like mechanically weak though? You're gonna feel bad for yourself. I know I say it a lot on a lot when it comes to games. Like, don't be a meta slave, go off meta, play what you think is cool. But at the end of the day, you're still spending a lot of money on the things, and you don't want to pay a lot of things just to lose, right?
Because things change all the time. But the universe of Warhammer has so much going for it. Every faction has something interesting. Every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told.
Yeah, I know.
The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in these two videos, is anything you could take away is the reason why so many
I hear
of us are
StarCraft
so into this
soundtrack.
series and why we like it so much. Because with so much variety, such an expansive universe, and so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been informative to you. If you want to see more of me, Bricky,
3 hours,
twitch.tv/Bricky
exacto 3 hours.
for my streams. You have my merchandise site, in which I was wearing all of my merch, but underneath this, because I had to wear this so it wasn't black or white for the green screen, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. If you'd like to see merch, it is in the description. Also, if you'd like to support me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Bricky for more videos like this, then that would also be wonderful. So Twitch, merch, Patreon, anything if you want to support, that would be fantastic. I'd appreciate it. If not, I'm just stoked you got all the way to the end of the video, and that is enough for me. So we're going to be having some more content like this out in the future. Thank you so much for sticking around this long and being with me through this pretty rough time. That's, I think, all I got. Also, before I go, let me leave you with my favorite Warhammer quote. He who scoffs at the power of the las gun has never ran into the field of 1,000.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that was quite the trip, actually. That is quite the trip. So yeah, hold on, let me just turn the music on. That was it's almost exactly 3 hours. Not counting from the setup time. And how do I put this? I think I still prefer the human factions. But for this one, I think I'm partial towards the orcs and the Tyranids. I'm actually partial towards them. And then for the Chaos factions, I'm still partial towards the blue guys, the Eldritch ones. Definitely, these ones are definitely easier to paint in general. They have more solo colors and stuff like that. But I think, yeah, I think we're gonna have to do the... I'm not sure if the explanation part, because I think that one is 2 hours. We're gonna have to do that on a future stream. And like what Mion said earlier, we might have a 40k discussion thing with other VTubers who enjoy the thing. But for now, yeah, I guess it's time to go. It's up to 11, yeah, it's up to 11 p.m. Almost 1 hour. I guess it's safe to end the stream. There will be a VOD of this, but I will have to edit it. We're gonna, you know, get rid of the dead air. We're gonna have to segment the thing. But do keep an eye out for that. Yeah, it's 11 p.m. Yeah, we have around 3 hours deep dive in the part 1 and part 2. And then there's gonna be another 2-hour video in a later episode. And then we're gonna get to the individual factions. Depends on my schedule, but not anytime, not immediately after. Not sure what we're gonna stream then. But yeah, still do keep an eye for our Tuesday and Thursday episode. We still have that because, you know, there's gonna be an episode of Bulgar. Not even done packing yet. I'm gonna have a big trip. All right. So yeah, without further ado, let's finish this stream. Like I said, the VOD will be up here on Twitch immediately after I end the stream. But it will also be transferred. An edited version would be on YouTube. Okay. So I'm glad I actually took a deep dive. It's been bothering me for a long time that I never watched a Warhammer 40k video, and we're gonna be watching some more in the future, and definitely gonna be on a weekend because my weekdays are mostly reserved for Bulgar streams. All right. So yeah, that is Muscle Cruise. That was Bricky. And that was 40k factions. And I'm signing off. Goodbye, guys. See you next time. See you on Tuesday in an episode of Bulgar. Bye-bye.